Hello and welcome to Sound Off. I'm your host, John Blaschke. So Sound Off is a brand new show. We're going to have weekly guests, and it's going to be your platform for free speech. Talk about whatever you want. That's what we're here for. We are Soundview Community Media, and we're here for the community. So anything that is on your mind that you would want to talk about to the public, this is your platform, this is your forum to be transversed all over the TV station airways. I would like to introduce our very first guest for Sound Off, the Mayor of Stratford. She came all the way from down the street, Laura Hoydick.
Thank you for having me, John.
Thank you for being here. So I would like to start off with just asking a bit about your personal self and what what got you into politics and all that.
So what got me into politics is really public service. And I had been volunteering all my life. I've been very involved in the Sterling House Community Center as a child, taking a lot of classes there, and then having my first job at $2 an hour there, being an aide for an arts and crafts class. And from there, I just began volunteering more and more and more, and realized how you could really impact your community and yourself by volunteering and by learning new things and meeting new people and just giving back to others around you. So that's how I started to get involved.
So public service has always been very important to you then?
My family comes from a family of public service. My aunt Ann and Uncle Bob ran the Orchid Boys Club, the boys club in Bridgeport, and they've always been involved on both sides of my family. My parents volunteered and were musically inclined and artistically inclined, and so it's just always being involved in the community was just something we always did. So I was a PTA mom and then a coach. Well, actually, I was a coach first and then a mom, and then I got interested in running for the Board of Education, and that was my first time I ran for office.
Okay, and what was it like serving on the Board of Education? It
was great. I loved it. So I was there for 4 years because we have term limits in Stratford, and then the next slate came in and were elected, but somebody had to resign, and so the council appointed me, so I got to serve another 3.5 years. So that was really a good benefit because I had the longevity and the experience for the new people who were serving who didn't have any, because it's a 4-year term and then you're out, and that's hard in any position to learn all that you need to know and then not be able to run again.
Mm. So these past 4 years of mayor, you're going to be serving pretty much like the same amount of time now. But with the election coming up, what are your goals? Like, what platforms are you going to be running on exactly?
Well, so similar platforms as to 4 years ago. When we canvassed people and just talking to the voters and the residents of Stratford, they were talking about taxes and how high tax. That was the #1 issue. And so I'm happy to say for 4 years in a row, we have lowered the mill rate. And the first 2 years, we decreased taxes. And then for some people, for all 4 years, we decreased taxes. There was a revaluation of property in the third year. So some people's values of their homes went up, which is really a great thing because you really want that major investment to go up. But consequently, because our structure in all of Connecticut is based on property taxes, their property taxes also went up. So in some cases they stayed flat, some cases they went down, but I know everybody's car tax went down. So that was the #1 thing we focused on, and we are still continuing to do that for this year's campaign. The other thing that was of major importance to people was civility and stability and a professional government, because the previous council, before we came into office, were extremely volatile. And there was a lot of public outcry and arguments, and it was documented, videoed, and it was just, people were not interested in having that happen anymore. They didn't want to be on the front page of the Connecticut Post because people had such controversy that they couldn't work it out civilly. So that was the other thing that we ran on, and we did. So we have a very stable, very professional form, government structure.
So it's really about cutting being the divisive nature of politics in general.
Yeah, well, it could be in some cases. I served in the General Assembly as a state rep, and when you're on the floor of the House, it's against rules to call people names or do things that's disparaging, and you don't call people's character into question. And so you comport yourself professionally and with respect and have integrity. And so that's the kind of atmosphere and the kind of environment we now have in the Stratford Town Council.
And how do you portray yourself like that? Like what qualities do you bring about in yourself that help you keep that sort of stability in the office like that?
Well, you have to try to be calm and you have to be pragmatic. I'm not saying that you never are emotional or let your feelings be known, but as far as a figure of a leader, I think it's important to be very calm and to be a role model, and so that's what I try to do.
That's very good. So it kind of goes like it goes more back into like what you're talking about before with focusing on your community outreach in a way. Kind of it goes back towards like your volunteering and wanting to help people.
Sure.
So you just kind of like focus on that.
Well, the residents of Stratford are my customers, so I need to listen, and I need to respond, and I need to do what I think is best. And sometimes, I mean, obviously, we don't always agree on everything, but I hope that I can explain my reasons for doing certain things, and they understand it, and it's really in the best interest of the whole community.
So aside from cutting taxes and the mill rate and all that, what are some of your other projects that you've backed in the past few years?
So I'm really proud of how we are a greener, more sustainable community. We have the silver level of Sustainable Connecticut, which is a statewide group that ranks communities on their greenness. And it's not just planting trees, it's how you recycle, it's how you save electricity and you're energy efficient in your buildings. There's a lot of different criteria. Beautification is another area of sustainable CT that we aspire to. And I'd like to think that we've made Stratford prettier since we got here. And even just, coming down Main Street tonight and seeing those hanging baskets of flowers, it's just, it's very pleasing to the eye, and just, it makes us look like a small hometown, and at 52,000, we're not that small, but it makes it feel like we are a hometown, high quality community, and I like that.
You're really living up to the motto of building more from forest to shore.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And if you notice around town, we have our first our first public building mural. It's on the Parks Maintenance Building on East Main Street. If you're going up from towards East Main Street towards Main, and it's on the Parks Building on your left-hand side. So the Arts Commission hired a muralist, and he painted the town flowers, which is daffodils, and it's really, really pretty there. And then from there, we have a lot of student artwork that we do. The Arts Commission also got, I think it's 14 traffic boxes, which are those big, ugly square boxes alongside of the roadway that control the traffic signals. And so they painted different designs on all of those. So that was another way to beautify something that normally you wouldn't think is pretty.
So it seems to me you put a lot of yourself into this town. Like you were saying how you were growing up going to Sterling House, like most of us in Stratford have, how you did a lot of arts and crafts and stuff, and you really put it back into back into the town now, where even like just the schools are helping with that, living up to that ideal.
They are, and we became a Be Kind community. Not so long ago, the schools had some beautiful murals of the Be Kind Ben's Bells logo on their buildings, and so we just did another mural down at Short Beach. The Short Beach Commission did that, and they applied to be a Be Kind community, and so Stratford is also a Be Kind community. And then last Friday, we became a Purple Heart community, which is a community that recognizes veterans and those that have been injured or given their lives in conflict. And so we were very, very pleased to be the 5th town in Connecticut to get that Purple Heart designation. So, wow. And that also came from the Veterans Museum, which is new in Stratford too. So when we talk about arts and culture and quality of life, all of these different people that are doing all of these great things, and these gentlemen started, mostly gentlemen, there are some women, that started this Veterans Museum. It's located at the end of Booth Park. They will be opening this fall, and they're just bringing a different part of our history and our lives to other people that are interested. And so it just makes Stratford more rounded and welcoming and diverse. I'm really kind of proud of us, how we are a lot of things to all of our people.
That is really fantastic. You know, and I've driven by it a few times, and I only just noticed it like somewhat recently, but I guess it is new. And I've been wanting to like look inside of it, and I haven't been able to yet. But I would like to go back to the Be Kind Community Achievement. What does it mean to be a Be Kind community to you?
To me personally,
Yeah.
Well, I think you treat others like you want to be treated, right? The golden rule. And Ben's Bells and the Be Kind community are just symbols of what Stratford can be. And so we do things often that are giving of us to help others, and that's another thing that the Be Kind community does. So.
It was back into public service.
Yeah, back into
public
service.
Very fantastic. So what would you say is the most important project that you've worked on in your tenure as mayor?
The one that's going to affect the town economically the most is the Army engine plant. That you may not even know it by that name because you're young. It closed over 25 years ago. So it's on Main Street, right next to DeLuca Field. It's 77 acres on the waterfront. It is owned by the U.S. government under the Army, under the BRAC division, and it's on that 77 acres are a lot of buildings, and it was used for manufacturing, famously the Corsair tank engines. World War II it's one of the manufacturing sites in this region, in the Bridgeport region, was heavily into munitions and arms. I've heard it said that the Corsair won the war against the Japanese in World War II, and I'm pretty proud that we were the community that built the Corsair.
Yeah, there's a lot of history in this town, especially when you look like Sikorsky too. Right.
So the first flight was Gustav Whitehead, even though North Carolina says it was the Wright brothers. We say it was Gustav Whitehead, and I guess that's been proven now. And then Sikorsky. So again, we have a lot of aviation history. We're very, very proud of it. And then the other thing too, another museum that has been working a long time to get started and just opened is the Connecticut Air and Space Center, which is across the street from the Army engine plant on the airport property in Bridgeport. And they have restored Corsairs and other aircraft there. And it's really pretty fascinating to go and see it. I don't know if you've been there, but I'm going to give them a plug because they have a car show, and they're opening the museum on the 19th, which is Sunday. And I think it's from 10 to 4. Entrance is $5, and it's really, really worth it to go. You'll see all antique cars and really cool cars, but then you can go across the street and see what's in the museum.
That does sound like I don't want to hear people say anymore. There's nothing to do in Stratford.
Yeah, well, you can and Two Roads is having their Oktoberfest this weekend, so
too.
There's another thing there going on too. Yeah.
Oh, that's duly noted.
Yeah.
So, after being mayor for 4 years, what would you say has changed the most since your time starting as mayor?
Well, COVID, the health pandemic, really definitely affected all operations and life as we know it, and so we had to pivot quickly and manage together really well. That's another reason why I'm really proud of us, because I think all the department heads that I work with have been absolutely amazing and have worked together to keep Stratford moving forward, and communication to the people about what's happening, because it's scary, and we had loved ones die and friends die and get very, very sick, and we don't even know the outcomes of all of the illness that we've had. So that was probably the most difficult thing to deal with.
Sure, it has been. We all know. What have been some of the policies that have been enacted since COVID began that you believe have helped the community?
Well, the governor's orders, the executive orders, kind of gave us the direction of what things we had to do. When we were in lockdown, we had to follow those orders pretty strictly and communicate that to the general public, what we were doing. We kept all of our departments open. Our public safety and our public works everybody was essential, so they worked. They didn't get to take 2 or 3 months off or work remotely, because I don't know how you plow snow remotely, right?
Yeah.
Or how you put out a fire or go to a call, a violence call, a 911 call if you're a police officer. You can't do that remotely, so they had to work. So we had protocols in place for their safety, PPE, personal protective equipment, and we had to work really. I said this again, I'll probably say this time and time over, but we had to work really closely and share what information we had with the health department. Was another amazing department that took a lead in trying to keep us safe and information to the public about how to manage during the initial days of the pandemic or months of the pandemic. So.
It seems like the recovery process is going along well too in Stratford.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, every community is different, and I thank the governor for letting the CEOs of the community manage as they would see fit. For example, there were colleagues of mine that shut down all the parks during that time, and I kept them open and the beaches open to Stratford residents because we needed an outlet. You couldn't stay in your house the whole time, and so people appreciated that, because we have a lot of waterfront in Stratford and we have a lot of parks, and people were at least able to drive around and go see something a little different than what was in their living room or dining room. So.
Yeah, a lot better than looking at a screen.
That's right.
There's just some things that you just can't do over Zoom. They don't have the same effect.
Right. So that was one of the things I was happy that we did, and people were very, very appreciative of it, that they had access to the parks and we didn't close them out.
Yeah, there sure is a lot to enjoy around here. So moving on to the next question. So there's a primary today, correct?
There is.
So how, without like going into too much detail, so you think that's going to be going along well today? You're excited to see the results of what the primary would be?
Well, it's a Democrat primary for 2 districts, 8 and 9. And so we should see the result. I don't think the turnout has been very high. I don't think people really realized it was a primary. So we should know the results shortly by 8:30, I think.
Yeah, I've only seen a few signs myself.
Yeah. Well, the campaign's just really starting. You know, it's mid-September,
right.
6 weeks away or so. Yeah.
There's still time. So, what are you looking forward to most come November for your election?
Sharing with the community, if they don't know, all the things that we've done to improve Stratford. I mean, we touched a little bit about the Army Engine Plant, and the Army Engine Plant is the biggest development opportunity that we have. And when I say things like development opportunity, it also relates to taxes, which also relates to revenue and income, and which is maybe lowers the taxes due for other residents in town. So that's a positive thing.
Would you be willing to go into a little more detail about the plans for the Army Engine Plant?
Sure, I can tell you as much as I can tell you. So the Army had a process called a record of decision, where they signed a document that awarded the developer, which is Point Stratford Renewal, the timeline to take the conveyance or ownership of the property. That happened in May, and in 6 months, Point Stratford Renewal should have the conveyance or ownership of the property. So meanwhile, they are looking at businesses that want to develop or build or do something on that property. And there's, again, it will be private, so it's their decision as long as it's under the industrial zone, which is what that plant is for planning and zoning. And so we will work with them as closely as we can, because it will improve the quality of Stratford, I'm hoping, by just their economic benefits of taxes paid to the town.
For sure.
And it's right across from the airport. And we have a lot of distribution going on Lordship Boulevard, so there's a lot of transportation, distribution. It's at the hub of 95, and 95 connects to Route 8, so it's really in a great location for a lot of different kinds of businesses.
Okay, yeah. Very promising stuff,
It
definitely.
is. It is. I'm excited to see what happens there. So.
Sure, we all are.
Yeah.
So moving on next, you have actually helped, before you were even mayor, when you're a state representative, you actually helped a lot with Soundview, and I would actually like to appreciate that with like backing a few bills and stuff like that. So I would like to take the time to thank you for that and take some time to recognize what exactly public access is to the people at home. I know I said this a little bit at the beginning of the show, but public access is really your platform for free speech. It was designed, it was put into place in the 70s or 80s for people, the community, to be able to talk freely, speak their mind without having to be restricted by media conglomerates. So it's really a crucial forum, especially like in today's days of like the internet, where it's like Google and Facebook that are controlling a lot of what we are able to see and stuff like that, censorship. So I would like to ask the mayor her views on free speech and what it means to you.
Critically important. It's the basis of our democracy. It's when you look at the Declaration of Independence and you see what our forefathers outlined for us, free speech, the right to bear arms, all of these things were rights that they felt so strongly about. And censorship, to me, is one of the worst things that can happen. You can choose to believe, or you can choose to parrot, or you can choose to modify your philosophy, but that's your choice as an individual. But if you are not allowed to hear or read and become more educated and more knowledgeable, I think that's a travesty. So I would also like to just say that my introduction to Soundview with Tom Castellat was very important to me. And I learned a lot when I was a state rep and the ranking member of Energy and Technology, and that's how I met Tom and learned about Soundview. And I've been on other public broadcast shows because they wanted to hear what everybody had to say, and it was nice to be able to talk freely about whatever was important to you.
Absolutely. It's important to hear, I mean, not only to hear what you want to hear, but dissenting opinions are important too, for sure.
How do you learn?
Exactly.
How do you learn if you don't? If you're in the echo chamber, you can't experience something else that you don't know about. So, I think it's really important.
It's an openness to new ideas in a way.
I agree.
Absolutely. I would like to take this time and just like to ask you if there's anything else that you would like to say about like the upcoming election, anything like that at all.
Well, I'm excited to run again. I think we have a great team. I think that the members of the council and I have all invested heavily in the town, meaning that we have volunteered and we're doing things that improve the quality of life in our town. And I'm happy to get 4 more years and keep continuing on.
Very good. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the people listening at home?
Like, take advantage of Soundview. Come share your thoughts and make sure you watch us. All of our town meetings are recorded and broadcast on Soundview, so I'm very happy about that. So I thank you for that. It's
a separate channel. It's not the same. It's the government channel. It's 77, I believe. Right?
Is it? Yeah.
I think that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're on 77.
77. Got it.
And the government is 79.
Government is 79. Thank you.
But still comes from Soundview.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a different channel from the one that's on here. I just wanted to prevent a little bit of confusion.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add at all?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, too. It's been great having you as the very first guest for Sound Off. I'm sure it's going to be a big hit now. Get the whole town talking, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But I hope so. I hope you are very, very successful because it's important. And I can't wait to see some of our youth using the studio and developing well, you're young, but younger than you, developing their talents. I have a very good friend who interned under Tom as a videographer. So I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us. And I'm so glad you're in Stratford.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah. Interning here has been great, but it's really, I wish more people would take advantage of Soundview here, because you know a lot of people they say, oh, I don't know what to do about a TV show. I don't know like how to like run a camera or like do anything like that. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you, and I'm here specifically to help you get that foot in the door. And if you have something to say, if you want to be on TV, this is it. You know, as easy as walking up, knocking on the door.
I think it's great. It's such a professional environment here, and it's a huge opportunity for us.
Okay, well, thank you very much again. And I would like to thank my producers, John E.K., Gus Montanaro, and Ricky Mestri, who designed the set in the background. You did a fantastic job. Thank you all very much for tuning into the first episode of Sound Off. We are here Tuesdays at 6:30, same time next week, and with another special guest. Mayor Hoydick, thank you very much again.
Thank you, John, for having me.
Thank you.